Teenager finds lost wallet of CEO. What he does with it will blow your mind. It was a gloomy, rain-soaked afternoon in Seattle, the kind where the clouds hung heavy and the drizzle felt endless. 16-year-old Liam Anderson trudged through the streets, the weight of the world on his young shoulders. Between worrying about his recent test scores, juggling his part-time job, and his family's relentless financial struggles, his mind was racing, but none of it seemed to have a clear solution. He shoved his hands into his jacket pockets, earbuds in, music blasting, trying to drown out the chaos around him. The street was crowded with people rushing to escape the rain, huddled under umbrellas and darting across crosswalks, oblivious to anything outside their own small bubbles. Liam was barely paying attention when something caught his eye. It was small, nearly hidden against the wet pavement. A sleek, black wallet lying carelessly in the middle of a busy crosswalk, untouched and unnoticed by the hurried crowd. His heart skipped. A wallet. He hesitated for a moment before darting forward, narrowly avoiding an oncoming car, and snatched it up. It felt heavy in his hand, the leather smooth and unquestionably expensive, the kind of wallet only the rich could afford. A surge of curiosity rushed through him. He'd never even seen a wallet this luxurious before. Who could have dropped this? He looked around, but nobody seemed to be searching for it. Liam's fingers trembled slightly as he opened it, half expecting to find only a few bills or perhaps some credit cards. But what he found made his breath catch in his throat. There were credit cards, yes, and an ID, just as he thought. But it wasn't the cards or the cash that caught his attention. It was the name. Bold, unmistakable, engraved in pristine gold letters on a platinum card. Jeffrey Preston Bezos. Liam's heart pounded in his chest. The name sent a shock through his system. Jeff Bezos? The founder of Amazon? The wealthiest man alive? His mind raced, trying to comprehend what he was holding. Of all the people in the world, of all the places, how could Jeff Bezos's wallet be lying in the middle of a wet Seattle street? His pulse quickened as 1,000 thoughts collided in his head. This wallet could hold the kind of money that could change everything for him, for his family. Just a small fraction of what Bezos probably carried around could erase their debts, solve their problems in a way Liam had only ever dreamed about. But more than that, this was Jeff Bezos's wallet, the man who symbolized unimaginable wealth, power, and influence. Liam's hands shook as he looked at the cards inside, his mind racing with possibilities. Should he return it? Could he? What if he didn't? The temptation was overwhelming, the weight of the decision crushing down on him. No one would ever know if he took something. The world seemed to slow as he stood there, drenched in rain, staring at the keys to a fortune. So what was the right thing to do? And, in this moment, staring at a symbol of unimaginable power, did he even care? Liam's hands trembled as he stared at the wallet, his grip tightening around the sleek leather. What should I do? The thoughts spun in his mind like a whirlwind. The temptation hit him like a physical punch, deep in his gut. Inside the wallet were several high-limit credit cards, cards that could unlock anything. His eyes darted to the name on the ID once again. Jeffrey P. Bezos, the wealthiest man on the planet, a billionaire many times over. He could live 10 lifetimes without ever needing a single penny more. And here, in his hands, was a glimpse into that unimaginable world. Liam's heart pounded. Could I? Should I? His mind raced with the possibilities. He could buy his mom those medical treatments she'd been putting off, the ones they couldn't afford. He could pay the overdue bills that had been piling up, take care of his father's debts from the failed business. He could change everything. One swipe of the card, one decision, and his family could finally breathe again. But then his conscience kicked in, like a voice in the back of his head, piercing the haze of temptation. His mother's words echoed in his mind, clear as day. Doing the right thing matters more than anything, Liam. She'd always said it, year after year, every time he was faced with a tough choice. It was her mantra, the moral compass that had guided him his entire life. But now, standing there in the rain, with the wallet of one of the richest men in the world in his hands, he found himself questioning everything. Did it really matter? Was honesty still important in a world where wealth and power could buy anything. Did right and wrong even exist when the stakes were this high? In a society where the rich could bend the rules, where billionaires like Bezos lived in a different universe altogether, what difference would it make if one small piece of their fortune slipped away? Liam's breath hitched. He could almost hear his mother's voice again, stern and loving, warning him against making a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. But what about us? He thought. What about my family? He was an ordinary teenager with a life that seemed destined to be ordinary, struggling, barely scraping by, and now here he was, holding the key to a life of luxury, a life he'd only seen in magazines and on TV. What would people do in his shoes? The question gnawed at him. What would anyone in this position choose? He knew what his mother would say. She would never allow him to take the wallet, to steal from someone, no matter how much it could help them. But his father's face flashed in his mind, the worry in his eyes, the endless stress that had worn him down over the past few months. His dad's business, his pride, was gone, and now all they had were bills and a future that seemed bleak. But then, in the middle of his spiraling thoughts, the rain seemed to pour even harder, as if nature itself was pushing him to make a choice. He looked at the wallet again, the fine leather glistening in the downpour, and for a moment, everything seemed to freeze. What kind of person do I want to be? But then, in the middle of his spiraling thoughts, the rain seemed to pour even harder, as if nature itself was pushing him to make a choice. He looked at the wallet again, the fine leather glistening in the downpour, and for a moment, everything seemed to freeze. What kind of person do I want to be? Liam didn't know how much time had passed. The noise of the world around him, the traffic, the people rushing by, the rain, faded as he stood there, locked in a battle between right and wrong. Could one wrong decision really change who he was? Could he undo the life his mother had worked so hard to build for him? With a final glance at the bustling world around him, Liam took a deep breath, the decision burning like a fire in his chest. Would he turn the wallet in, or would he take a chance, push aside everything he had been taught, and keep it for himself? The world, it seemed, was watching him, waiting for an answer. After hours of internal struggle, the weight of his decision finally settled on Liam's shoulders. He couldn't do it. He couldn't take the wallet. Even with the temptation gnawing at him, his mother's voice echoed in his mind, reminding him of the lessons she'd drilled into him over the years. Honesty, integrity, doing what's right. This was his moment to prove to himself that he could live by those principles, even when the stakes felt impossibly high. His hands were still shaking as he dug through the wallet, his heart racing. "This is it! I'm doing the right thing," he told himself, though doubt continued to whisper at the edges of his mind. Among the credit cards and the ID was a business card for Jeff Bezos. It was a simple card, black with gold lettering, and the name Jeffrey P. Bezos gleamed back at him. He ran his finger along the edge of the card, feeling the weight of the situation. With a deep breath, Liam opened his phone and navigated to his email app. His fingers hovered over the screen for a moment before he typed out a message, trying to keep his words as clear and respectful as possible. "Mr. Bezos, I found your wallet. How can I return it to you?" It was simple. It was honest. But as soon as he hit send, an overwhelming wave of uncertainty crashed over him. What if he never heard back? What if someone like Jeff Bezos didn't even care about something as trivial as a lost wallet? The billionaire had billions after all. Losing a wallet was nothing more than a minor inconvenience in his world. For Liam, though, this felt like the biggest decision of his life. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Liam kept checking his phone, his anxiety rising with each passing moment. What if nothing happens? What if this was all for nothing? But then, just under an hour later, an unexpected notification pinged on his phone. Liam's heart skipped. He opened the email, eyes scanning the message. It was from Jeff Bezos himself, not an assistant, not a secretary, but the man himself. The email was brief, but its tone was direct and clear. "Thank you for reaching out. Let's meet tomorrow at my office in downtown Seattle. I'd like to retrieve my wallet personally." Liam blinked, reading it again to make sure he wasn't imagining things. No way. This is real. A flood of disbelief and awe washed over him. The wealthiest man in the world was responding to him personally. Not only was he willing to meet, but he wanted to retrieve his wallet himself. For a long moment, Liam sat frozen, staring at the phone screen. He couldn't quite process the gravity of the situation. The rain was still coming down outside, tapping softly against the windows, but everything felt different now. He had made the right choice, but now a new wave of nerves rushed in. What was it going to be like, meeting Jeff Bezos? What would he say? What would he expect of Liam? Liam glanced at the clock. He had only a day to prepare for this meeting. His mind raced, imagining all sorts of possibilities. Would Bezos be angry that he found his wallet? Would he offer a reward? Would he ask Liam why he had bothered returning it? And most pressing of all, would meeting the man who held so much power, so much influence, change Liam forever? As the rain continued to fall, Liam knew one thing for sure. He had just stepped into a world far beyond anything he could have imagined. And what happened next could alter the course of his life in ways he couldn't yet fathom. The next day, Liam stood in front of the towering glass buildings of downtown Seattle, feeling utterly out of place. He had always been a small-town kid, the kind who took the bus to school and dreamed of a life beyond his family's financial struggles. But today, everything was different. He had never been anywhere near Amazon's headquarters, let alone inside, and the thought of stepping into the world of Jeff Bezos, the man who practically defined success, sent a wave of nerves through him. As Liam walked through the revolving doors, the lobby felt both intimidating and awe-inspiring. The polished floors gleamed beneath him, and the massive glass walls seemed to reach up into infinity, showcasing the futuristic design of Amazon's headquarters. Every surface screamed power, ambition, and wealth, a stark contrast to the small, cluttered home where Liam had spent most of his life. He approached the receptionist, who smiled politely and directed him toward a private elevator. His stomach twisted as he stepped inside, the elevator ascending rapidly to the top floor, where, he was told, Bezos himself would be waiting. Liam could hardly believe it. "I'm really doing this. I'm meeting Jeff Bezos." When the elevator doors opened, the first thing that hit Liam was how normal everything seemed. There was no entourage, no media bus, just Jeff Bezos standing there in a casual jacket, waiting patiently, his presence commanding without being overbearing. He looked less like a billionaire titan and more like a regular guy who could easily blend in with anyone on the street. His gaze was calm and steady as he extended his hand toward Liam. "You must be Liam," Bezos said, with a warm, genuine smile. "I believe you have something of mine?" Liam's heart raced as he reached into his jacket and pulled out the wallet, his fingers trembling as he handed it over. The weight of the moment hung in the air like an unspoken question. What would happen now? He managed a nervous smile, trying to steady his voice. "Yes, sir. I found it near the crosswalk downtown." Bezos took the wallet and examined it briefly before looking back at Liam, his smile never wavering. "Not many people would have done what you did," Bezos said, his tone thoughtful. "Most people would have kept it or sold it online." He paused, studying Liam carefully, his piercing gaze making the teenager feel as if he were being sized up. Then, with a slight tilt of his head, Bezos asked, "But you didn't. Why?" Liam froze for a moment, the weight of the question settling deep in his chest. His mind raced. What does he want from me? What's he expecting? But then, something inside him clicked. This was his moment, the one chance to be completely honest, to explain why he made the choice he did, why he didn't just take the easy route. He took a deep breath, his nerves giving way to something more certain, more grounded. "I hesitated," Liam said, his voice a little shaky but steadying with each word. "I thought about keeping it. My family's been going through a hard time. My dad lost his job during the pandemic, and we're behind on bills. I could have used the money, could have bought what we need, but..." Nah. He trailed off for a second, trying to find the right words. He was still a teenager after all, unsure of himself in this high-powered, high-stakes environment, but he knew one thing for sure: it didn't feel right. "My mom always told me that doing the right thing is what matters, no matter how tempting the alternative." Bezos listened intently, his expression unreadable, though there was something in his eyes, a flicker of understanding, perhaps. After a long pause, he nodded slowly, as if processing the weight of Liam's words. "You know," Bezos said, his voice softer now, Most people wouldn't have made the choice you did. It's not easy, especially when things aren't going well at home, but you made the right decision, Liam. And that matters." Liam felt a wave of relief wash over him, as if he had passed some invisible test. Bezos wasn't just acknowledging his actions, he was respecting them. In that moment, Liam realized that sometimes doing the right thing didn't always bring immediate rewards or recognition. But there were always consequences to every decision, and even the smallest acts of integrity could have a ripple effect. Bezos smiled again, this time with something warmer, more personal in his gaze. "I'm impressed," he said. "It's not every day I meet someone who understands the value of integrity. You've shown me something important today, Liam." The billionaire's words hung in the air like a promise, one that Liam wasn't sure he fully understood yet, but knew, deep down, was going to change the way he looked at the world. "I'd like to offer you something," Bezos continued, "not as a reward for returning the wallet, but as a gesture of appreciation for your honesty. Something that could help you, your family, whatever you need. I believe people like you deserve to be supported." Liam blinked, unsure if he had heard him right. Was he really offering him something meaningful? In the face of so much wealth, so much power, it was hard to comprehend. But as he stood there, in the heart of Bezos's world, one thing became clear. His life was about to change in ways he couldn't yet imagine. Bezos nodded, clearly impressed. "That kind of integrity is rare. I'd like to offer you something for your honesty." Liam shook his head, feeling a mix of disbelief and humility. "You don't have to give me anything. I just wanted to do the right thing." But Bezos wouldn't take no for an answer. He leaned forward, his gaze intense yet warm, as he gestured for Liam to sit down. The soft hum-hum of the office seemed to quiet as Bezos pulled up some documents on his sleek laptop. "I appreciate your humility," he said, eyes still fixed on Liam, "but I believe people like you deserve a chance to go further in life." Liam felt a knot form in his stomach. What could this mean? Bezos continued, his voice steady and thoughtful. "You remind me of what Amazon was built on: innovation, honesty, and a drive to improve the world. I want to help you achieve something beyond what you can even imagine right now." And then Bezos dropped a bombshell that Liam hadn't expected in his wildest dreams. "I'd like to offer you a full scholarship to any university of your choice, and, if you're interested, an internship at Amazon after you graduate high school. You're the kind of person we need at Amazon, someone who knows that integrity isn't just a word, but a way of life." Liam's jaw dropped, his mind racing. A full scholarship? To any university? An internship at Amazon? The weight of it all hit him at once. It was more than he could have ever dreamed of, a future he never thought was possible for someone like him. But in that moment, he realized that his actions had created this opportunity. Still, he couldn't help but ask, his voice barely above a whisper, "Why me?" Bezos smiled, a knowing look in his eyes. "Because people like you don't come around often. Your integrity, your choice to do the right thing, that's what sets you apart. That's what we need more of in the world, people who understand that success is about much more than just numbers or profit." Liam sat there, the enormity of the moment sinking in. For the first time in his life, he saw a path forward, one that didn't just promise success, but a chance to shape the future. And it was all because he chose to be honest. That night, Liam returned home in a daze, his mind still swirling with disbelief. The sound of his front door creaking open felt strangely distant, as if he was still trapped in the moment of the surreal conversation with Jeff Bezos. His footsteps were heavy, the weight of the day's events pressing down on him. But as he entered the familiar warmth of his home, the reality began to settle in. His mother was sitting in the kitchen, as she often was, a cup of tea in hand. The moment she saw him, she set it down, concern flashing across her face. "Liam, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice gentle, yet filled with worry. Without a word, Liam sat down across from her, his breath shaky as he recounted the unbelievable encounter with Bezos. He told her everything, how Bezos had noticed his honesty, how he'd been offered a full scholarship, and the internship at Amazon. His words tumbled out in a rush, his voice quivering with excitement and a hint of disbelief. As Liam spoke, his mother's expression shifted. Her eyes widened, then slowly filled with tears. She listened intently, as if processing the weight of what he was saying. Finally, when he finished, there was a long, quiet pause. Then, without warning, she stood up, crossing the room in a flash, and wrapped her arms around him tightly, her tears now flowing freely. "You did it, Liam," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "You did the right thing, and now look at this. I always believed it would pay off, but never like this." Liam's chest tightened as he hugged her back, feeling the powerful bond between them. This moment of joy was their shared victory. His mother had always taught him that doing the right thing was never about the immediate rewards, but about the long-term impact it would have. She had instilled in him the belief that integrity mattered, but neither of them could have imagined how this moment would change their lives forever. The next few days felt like a blur. The weight of their financial struggles, which had once been a constant source of stress and worry, now seemed lighter, almost insignificant, in comparison to the opportunities that were unfolding before them. With the scholarship, Liam's future was no longer clouded by the question of how to afford college, and the internship at Amazon wasn't just a job, it was a potential stepping stone into a world Liam had never dreamed of. But the changes went beyond the material rewards. As Liam sat quietly one evening, reflecting on everything that had happened, he realized that the true lesson he had learned wasn't just about the tangible benefits of honesty. It was about the deeper power of integrity, of the way it could transform not only a single moment, but an entire life. He had done what he believed was right, without expecting anything in return, and now, he saw that integrity wasn't just about making good choices when no one was looking. It was about trusting that doing so would eventually lead to something greater than what he could have imagined. In the quiet of his room, as he looked at the scholarship letter and the internship offer, Liam understood that integrity had given him far more than a scholarship or a job. It had given him a new perspective on life, a belief in himself, and a deep trust in the principle that doing the right thing could, in fact, lead to incredible opportunities. In a world driven by greed, Liam's story proves that doing the right thing still matters. His choice of integrity over temptation changed his life, showing that kindness and honesty can have a lasting impact, even in the face of wealth. If you found Liam's story inspiring, make sure to subscribe to William's Wisdom Stories for more lessons like this. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button now.